Ticket, age in EMR is incorrect, but DOB is correct. Resolution, patient is wrong. User is wrong. System working as intended, by user I am Andlary. I'm an IT manager. I've got 15 years of experience in IT, with 10 of it working for MSPs and the last several managing the IT department of a local hospital with about 600 users. I've dealt with a lot of dumb stuff and talked to a lot of dumb people. I like to think I'm pretty good at being jovial, sympathetic, and tactful. Sometimes though, it's really hard. Ticket description, age on patient's encounter, visit, shows 63 but they are 62. DOB is correct, 2/XX/59. I cannot change because the system auto-populates the age. Me, hey, I'm getting back to you about the ticket you put in. User, yeah, it says she's 63 but she's 62, and I can't fix it. Me, did she say she's 62? User, yeah. Me, look, there's not a nice way to put this, but she's wrong. She's 63. User, but if you Google it says she's 62. Me, well if you Google it without the exact date it's probably assuming you were born in the middle of the year, and she wasn't. She was born in February. User, hold on. It's too early for this. Thinks for a minute Google says she's 62. Me, she was born in February 1959, and it's March 2022. Her birthday was last month and she's 63. User, but she says she's 62. Me, well she may not like it, but she's 63. User, okay. I don't even know. It's too early for this. I'll just leave it. Edit, new update. Turns out the patient may have dementia. The user went to talk to her about the age thing, and the patient apparently got angry that the user said she was 63. When the patient went in for a procedure the patient told the doctor they were supposed to be prepping her right side, and the doc said I am prepping your right side. The patient then held up her left hand and said this is my right side. I took the liberty of calling someone up the chain on the clinical side and relaying this. Stupid boss cripples Navy ships connectivity, by user 1978. A little more than a decade ago when I was still active duty US Navy we were on a deployment and at that point sailing in the Mediterranean Sea. One of my technicians was working on the main interface between the ship's internal networks and the satellite. Everything went through this system, internet, email, message traffic, ship-to-shore phones, secure networks etc. We had been having a minor connection issue with the shore facility. Boss tells my tech to enter a change into the configs, no change. Boss tells him to enter a different change, without undoing the first, no change. This goes on for about 30 minutes or so. Then I hear this. Boss change that to this, then restart. Tech I have to copy the running config over to startup first, should take a minute or two. Boss I know how this system works, I went to the school for it, just restart it. Asterisk note, he went to the school for 2 versions ago, different OS, didn't work the same anymore. One of the commands he had the tech enter had cleared the startup config file during the last 30 minutes asterisk. Tech if I just restart will lose every config in the system, and a reload will take a lot longer. Boss just do what I tell you to do, bigger boss needs to get messages out for our next port visit. Note, I had talked to bigger boss earlier in the day, he was glad to not have a ton of emails coming in and couldn't care less. Tech just let me copy this and I'll restart. Boss just get out of my way and I'll do it. Tech walked over to me and said we had better open the safe and get the backup configs ready. We entered our combos in the safe and pulled the disk. I looked at the sleeve and the date of last backup was after we left home port, no big deal. Boss what the fuck? I can't get into anything now. We walk over, disk in hand and get ready to reload everything. Pop the disk in, pull up the file just to visually verify everything and the file has only the header, nothing else. I ask boss, who according to the log did the last backup, it's an easy process and he usually always took the easy ones because boss, if he had verified the file before he burnt the disk. Boss WTF do you think I am an idiot, of course I did everything was there. Me nothing is here now, tech pull the older disk out and we'll try to rebuild from there. Tech looking confused there isn't an older one. Me there has to be, we keep 2 for just this reason. Tech it's not here man, take a look. I go through every disk in the binder, he's right it's gone. Boss I shredded it, we only need the most current. Me you sigh, tech, hand me the set phone I'll be up on deck for a bit. Because boss wanted to save the ginormous amount of space that a single CD takes up, we were completely disconnected with an empty box of a router. It took me over 2 hours of dropped SAT calls to a few civilian techs I knew to get a new config made and sent out via regular mail. 2 weeks later we got the disk in hand and had the system restored in about an hour. Boss was ordered bigger boss to not touch that system again while stationed on board. This is but one of many tales from USN tech support, and yes, users are just as stupid if not more so sometimes. We urgently need you to restore this file, by user Happy Dutchman. Another story reminded me of this experience. I think it was about 1996 and I had a side job as general IT support at a nearby local government office. Long time ago, do I'll enhance the forgotten details. The main IT strategy whenever they needed a new computer for anyone was to go to the local computer store and buy whatever was discounted that day. About 120 or so computers, almost all different and standalone. And an AS400 with about 40 terminals connected. Each user had their own backup routine explained to them. Some did this but most didn't. One day management decided they needed upgrading and a network with file server etc. In comes a big IT company and installs 25 new computers for management and their support staff, including room of typists. I get the task to replace the backup tapes on the 2 days I am around. I noticed that the tape wasn't ejected automatically and has to be ejected manually. This worried me as all other backup tape drives I had seen prior would do this. I looked for logs on the server but found none. I even didn't see any jobs scheduled. I contact big IT company about this and their answer was, of course you can't see the jobs and logs as they run with special permission. I argued about me logging in with the domain administrator account but they ignored me. One day I receive a call from the legal person requesting a restore of a document they created a few days ago but was deleted accidentally by themselves just now. They of course always did their backup before being migrated to one of the new computers. They urgently need the restore as the document needs to be sent via registered mail today. It is 2 p.m. I contact big IT company as I had no information on how to perform restores. They walk me through opening the backup software and indicate me to select last night's backup. I reply that the screen is empty. They don't understand. I fill them in our earlier exchange from several months prior with their coworker and the special permission etc. You get it, I was right all along. They still ask me to manually index the last tape but dice. I walk over to the legal person, it is now an hour later and they have phoned me twice already, and explain that we don't have a backup because it was never implemented. They exclaim that this can't be true and that we will face legal implications if we don't restore the file. We go back and forth a bit until they say the magic words, if we don't have this letter at the receiving end by end of day tomorrow we have a huge problem. They are pointing at a piece of paper on their desk. One sheet. A printed version of the document. 2 paragraphs of text with one handwritten correction. It takes them less than 5 minutes to retype it, all the time arguing that there should have been a backup. Whoops, by user Diligent Cockroach 700. YAAI. Back in the old days when I was a developer, I wrote a system to generate statistics and reports from a live data stream. When I was developing it, I had no access to the actual live data stream, just the specification for the format it was in, so to test my software, I wrote a small Nada program to replicate the data stream with random data. Just I could check it was calculating and formatting correctly. The program was put into use and the whole department loved it. Fast forward a year or so and I got a request in to do some changes, so I called up the original program listing and to me horror discovered I had forgotten to switch off the random data generator. This means they had been receiving bogus stats for almost a year and nobody had even noticed. So I made the changes, switched off the random number generator, recompiled and said nothing. Are you sure you want to fire me? By user Teddy of Brightstar. English is not my native language so PLS forgive any typos. Couple of years ago I worked in a big energy infrastructure company. I worked there for over 4 years, starting out as a technician. But because I'm a very IT-oriented person, I soon found myself doing server maintenance and also new server room builds. Because of the nature of the industry in my country I happened to be one of the few on-site IT support guys in the whole country. Later I found myself to be the only one since all the others moved to different positions. I also did regular energy production maintenance, because for some reason the company felt they didn't need a full-time on-site IT support. About 3.5 years to my employment, I was diagnosed with an illness that affected my production maintenance part greatly. In fact, I couldn't do that anymore at all. I won't go into details with this. I could and was still doing the on-site IT support and installations since I was by far the most qualified and also the only one who was doing that at the moment. Our main IT crew was located in another country, but I still made friends with most of them in my years of on-site IT support. At some point when the equipment was already aged many years, we started having problems with it. I begun having jobs hundreds of kilometers away, and also in completely different maintenance areas as well, because all of the other support guys moved to different positions. I had a colleague in maintenance that I started to take along to some of the jobs, just because I really needed some help. Some of the tasks took several days, sometimes even a week of traveling to do them all. He wasn't really qualified for IT, but I thought he'll learn as I teach him. It turned out he actually learned some, but he was also very sloppy and got distracted very quickly. One time he even got himself electrocuted with the mains rail when doing server maintenance. But it is a completely different story. It turned out that the company was not happy because of the illness I had, and wanted me out. I could still do the IT stuff completely fine, but since that was not the position they hired me for, they started to give me some hard time. I contacted some of my colleagues abroad and they all said they really needed me for IT support and installations. After some time, the big bosses decided they didn't need me anymore since I was not able to do the work they originally hired me for. Let me remind you, at this time I was the only on-site IT support guy in the whole country that was qualified to do that job. Some months go by and I was eventually fired. I tried to fight this termination with a union lawyer, with my boss and other colleagues in the maintenance, but with no luck. I had 6 months left and then I was out. I had no problem doing IT support because my illness didn't really affect that part of the job. Almost immediately after I was no longer working, I started getting phone calls from the colleague I previously tried to train for the same job I was doing. He had his hands full with all the stuff I used to do before, but I could clearly tell he had not listened the half of what I told him. He was calling me to ask for the most basic questions of how to do maintenance and troubleshooting. I was dumbfounded that they actually moved this guy to IT support, since he had absolutely no idea how to do it, and I also recall telling my boss that this guy is no fit for this job. After a while I had that the local boss, who was a really nice guy and on my side, was in trouble because he had no qualified local IT support for server maintenance, and the guys abroad were asking what happened to me and they needed stuff to be done. To this date they haven't got anyone qualified to do the job, and the guys abroad regularly have to travel hundreds or even thousands of kilometers to do maintenance and installations that I previously completed in some hours. I can't see how the company saved money on this. It's crazy how detached most of the management is from the actual work and tasks.